My father said you needed a wife, the CEO said. Then the single dad's answer left her speechless. The dusty road stretched endlessly across the Montana countryside as a black luxury SUV rolled toward a struggling farm that looked as though it had survived one hardship after another. The driver stepped out first, opening the rear door for a woman whose tailored white suit seemed completely out of place among the weathered fences and golden fields. What happened next would change two lives forever. Before we begin, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of family, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribe to the channel for more emotional stories. The woman was Sarah Bennett, one of the youngest CEOs in America. At only 36 years old, she ran a billion-dollar agricultural corporation headquartered in Chicago. Newspapers called her brilliant. Investors called her unstoppable. Employees called her demanding. Yet beneath the polished image was a woman carrying a loneliness no amount of success could erase. The man standing by the broken wooden gate was Jacob Turner, a widowed father raising his 8-year-old daughter alone on a small farm outside Billings, Montana. Life had not been kind to Jacob. 3 years earlier, his wife, Rebecca, had died unexpectedly from a sudden illness. One moment they had been planning their future together. The next, Jacob found himself standing in a hospital hallway holding his daughter's trembling hand while his entire world collapsed. Since then, every day had been a battle. He woke before sunrise to care for livestock, repair equipment, prepare breakfast, drive his daughter to school, work the farm until dark, cook dinner, help with homework, and somehow find enough energy to do it all again the next day. Money was always tight. Sleep was rare. Loneliness had become a permanent companion. Yet despite everything, Jacob never complained. His daughter, Grace, was the center of his universe. Everything he did was for her. That morning, Jacob was repairing a damaged fence when the expensive SUV appeared. He assumed someone was lost. People with vehicles like that never came to his property. Sarah stepped onto the dirt road and looked around. The wind tugged gently at her dark hair as she stared at the aging farmhouse. It was exactly as her father had described. Months earlier, Sarah's father, Thomas Bennett, had quietly visited the region during a charity project supporting struggling farmers. There he had met Jacob. The two men had spoken for hours. Thomas had been deeply moved by the young father's devotion to his daughter and his determination to survive despite overwhelming hardships. After returning home, Thomas talked about Jacob constantly. Not his struggles, not his financial problems, but his character, his integrity, his strength. Eventually Thomas had surprised Sarah with an unusual statement. He told her that the most valuable man he had met all year wasn't a billionaire, a politician, or a celebrity. It was a widowed farmer raising a little girl alone. At first Sarah laughed. Then her father said something she never forgot. He told her that Jacob needed a wife far less than someone needed a man like Jacob. The words stayed with her. Weeks later, curiosity brought her to Montana. Standing before Jacob for the first time, she immediately noticed how exhausted he looked. His clothes were worn. His hands were rough from labor. Dark circles rested beneath his eyes. Yet there was something else. A quiet dignity. A strength that couldn't be bought. A sincerity that couldn't be manufactured. For the next hour, Sarah toured the farm. She expected complaints. She expected requests for help. She expected discussions about money. Instead, Jacob spoke mostly about his daughter. He showed her Grace's drawings hanging on the refrigerator. He described her dreams of becoming a veterinarian. He talked about her school projects, her favorite books, and her love for animals. Every sentence revealed a father's pride. Sarah found herself strangely affected. In boardrooms, people spoke about profits. Jacob spoke about purpose. As the afternoon passed, Sarah finally revealed why she had come. She explained that her father had admired him greatly. Then she mentioned the comment Thomas had made. The comment that had inspired her visit. "My father said you needed a wife." The words felt awkward even as she said them. For a moment, silence settled over the farm. The wind rustled through the tall grass. Somewhere in the distance, a horse neighed. Then Jacob smiled. Not a bitter smile. Not an embarrassed smile. A gentle one. And his answer left Sarah completely speechless. He explained that he didn't need a wife. What he needed was more time. More hours with his daughter. More opportunities to be present during her childhood. More chances to create memories before she grew up. He said that another person could never fix loneliness. Only meaningful connections could do that. He said he wasn't searching for someone to rescue him from hardship. He was simply trying to become the father Grace deserved. The sincerity of his words struck Sarah like a lightning bolt. For years, she had surrounded herself with people chasing titles, wealth, and status. Yet this man measured success differently. To him, success meant hearing his daughter laugh. Success meant being there for school plays. Success meant showing up every single day. For the first time in years, Sarah felt her priorities shifting. Before leaving, she asked permission to visit again. Jacob agreed. What neither of them realized was that this would become the beginning of an extraordinary friendship. Over the following months, Sarah returned frequently. Sometimes she brought supplies. Sometimes she helped organize support programs for local farmers. Sometimes she simply sat on the porch drinking coffee while Grace told endless stories about school. Slowly, walls began to fall. Grace adored Sarah. The little girl's laughter filled the farmhouse whenever she visited. Meanwhile, Sarah discovered something she had never experienced in her corporate life: peace. On the farm, nobody cared about quarterly earnings. Nobody discussed stock prices. Nobody competed for influence. The days felt simple, authentic, real. Yet challenges remained. A severe drought threatened the region. Crop yields dropped dramatically. Many farms faced bankruptcy. Jacob worked longer hours than ever. The pressure became overwhelming. One evening, Sarah arrived unexpectedly and found him sitting alone on the porch after midnight. The exhaustion on his face was impossible to ignore. For the first time, she saw cracks in the armor. Years of carrying every burden alone had taken their toll. That night, instead of discussing business or solutions, they simply talked. About grief. About fear. About loss. Jacob shared memories of Rebecca. Sarah shared the loneliness hidden behind her professional success. As they spoke beneath a sky filled with stars, something changed. Two people from completely different worlds realized they were fighting the same battle. Both were searching for connection. Both were searching for purpose. Both were searching for home. Months passed. The drought eventually eased. Community programs helped struggling farmers survive. The farm slowly recovered. And Sarah found herself spending more time in Montana than Chicago. One afternoon, while watching Grace ride her horse across a sunlit field, Sarah realized she was smiling. Not the practiced smile used for magazine covers. Not the calculated smile used during negotiations. A genuine smile. The kind she hadn't felt in years. That was when she understood something important. Success had given her everything except what mattered most. Connection. Family. Belonging. Meanwhile, Jacob noticed changes too. Life no longer felt like an endless uphill climb. For the first time since Rebecca's passing, he wasn't carrying every burden alone. Someone cared. Someone showed up. Someone understood. One autumn evening, the three of them attended Grace's school fundraiser. As parents and children filled the gymnasium, Grace suddenly grabbed both adults by the hands. She smiled brightly and led them toward a photographer. Neither had time to object. The picture was taken instantly. Later, when the photo was printed, Grace stared at it proudly. To everyone else, it looked like a simple photograph. To her, it looked like a family. Years later, people would ask Sarah what first attracted her to Jacob Turner. They expected dramatic answers, romantic stories, grand gestures. Instead, she always remembered a single moment. A tired farmer standing beside a broken fence saying he didn't need a wife. He needed more time with his daughter. That answer revealed everything about his heart. And that heart changed her life forever. Before we finish, if this story has touched your heart in any way, please like the video, share it with friends and family, and subscribe for more inspiring stories that remind us what truly matters. Special request: comment below with the words "family comes first" if you believe love is shown through actions, not words. A year later, Sarah made a decision that shocked many people in the corporate world. She stepped back from several executive responsibilities and relocated part-time to Montana. The headlines focused on business implications. The public speculated endlessly. But the truth was much simpler. She had finally found something money could never buy. A place where she belonged. A place where people mattered more than profits. A place where a little girl's laughter echoed through open fields. and a place where a widowed father had unknowingly taught a powerful lesson. Sometimes the strongest people aren't looking for someone to save them. They're simply doing their best to love the people who depend on them. And sometimes, when kindness, patience, and genuine understanding enter their lives, healing begins in ways nobody could have predicted. As the sun set over the Montana horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, 3 figures stood together outside a farmhouse that no longer felt lonely. The future remained uncertain. Life would still bring challenges, but they would face them together. And for Jacob, Sarah, and Grace, that made all the difference. Because in the end, the greatest wealth is not found in bank accounts, corporate offices, or luxury vehicles. It is found in the people who stand beside us when life becomes difficult. And sometimes, the most beautiful families are not the ones we plan for. They are the ones built through kindness, resilience, faith, and love. Heavy Black Heart Hash.